Yeah, Björn Anderson from Global Listing Gurus iGoTerra and Rock Jumpers Alex Alvarado. So Björn Anderson has a working background in the tech business and was one of the founding members of iGoTerra back in 2012. Björn is also an extremely keen world birder and naturalist and has been birding since the age of 9. He was largely inspired to travel the world by reading books by a Swedish explorer by the name of Sten Bergman, an ornithologist and an author who traveled to some very remote parts of the world, Kamchatka and the West Papua in the 1950s. Bjorn's first foreign birding trip was with friends when he was just 13 years old to the Neusiedler See in Austria, so a while back. And Bjorn's now traveled extensively across the globe and has been to, well, 140 countries, where he's observed close to 9,500 birds. It's an incredible achievement. He also has a keen interest in coral reef fishes and insects, mammals, and reptiles. And Bjorn also founded the Swedish Taxonomy Committee 25 years ago. Bjorn has previously also lived in both China and Panama, but is now back in Sweden living on the migration hotspot Öland, an island in the Baltic Sea. Incredibly, the Arctic flyway with hundreds of thousands of geese and ducks and terns and gulls and waders pass right outside his window on their way from the Arctic tundra to the wintering grounds along the Atlantic coastlines. So a wonderful part of the world where Bjorn resides. And yeah, Bjorn's going to be our first presenter today, but I'm just going to take our time just to introduce you to Alex Alvarado as well. And he's going to be presenting once Bjorn has finished his presentation on iGoTerra. So in 2006, Alex began investigating Honduran birds in different habitats, and he traveled across the country during that time. And then, having considered the country's great diversity of species, Alex decided to start his own business. And he initially offered birding tours to the Copan Ruins and Hacienda Las San Lucas areas. And then, after attending multiple courses and increasing his experience across Honduras, Alex was elected as the president of the Honduran Ornithological Association in 2013. Alex joined Rock Jump as a full-time tour leader back in 2021 and now leads tours for us across the length and breadth of Central and South America, including the Caribbean. Just a quick one as well. Questions are highly encouraged. And what we're going to do, as I say, is split the webinars up. So any questions relating to iGoTerra will be answered by Bjorn directly after his presentation is complete. And then once done, we'll say goodbye to Bjorn, and Alex will then start his webinar. And yeah, we'll then have another Q&A session specifically on Honduras once Alex has finished his presentation. So feel free to send through your questions via the chat function at any stage, or the little Q&A function as well. And yeah, we'll get to those then at the end of the presentation. So that's all from me now. Without further delay, let's open the floor to Bjorn and hear a little bit more about iGoTerra. All right, Bjorn, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you for that introduction, and I look forward to seeing the Honduras part later on. And also thank you to you, Keith, and Rock Jumper for a long-lasting partnership where we provide all the checklists and the annotated checklist in the trip report that you produce. So that's just part of what we do. The one I will talk about right now is how iGoTerra can help you to get on top of your lists. So that's really what it centers around here. And obviously the time is short, but I will focus on a few highlight things. Before going into the presentation, in the bottom right corner, you can see a promotion code that you can use, Bjorn 98233. And you may want to take a note on that one for a discount later on. So onto the presentation. How can iGoTerra help you to be on top of your lists? There's a lot of things related to lists, of course. Part one is when you start to plan the trip, where you want to go and putting target birds on the list and so on. So that's one part. Then when you're in the field, it's about entering observations, or when you're at home, you enter also all the data into some kind of database. So I'll go through a little bit about entering observations. And then there's a part in my presentation that will be about when at home, after the trip, or when you just want to play around with all the data and so forth. So three parts I'll walk through. Planning your trip. Well, first of all, you need to decide where to go. It might be Honduras, it might be somewhere else. And there is a very interesting function in iGoTerra, which is called where to go next. And you can very easily, just with a tap on the computer, see where can I get most lifers, where can I see most endemics. And that also works for some of the sub areas for the larger countries like Brazil, Indonesia, and so forth. So that might guide you may want to go to Honduras. You want to create checklists and target lists and so on. And of course, RockJumper provides you with a checklist, of course. But very often you need to spend a lot of time marking on that checklist what you have seen before and what are your target birds for family ticks and so forth. So what iGoTerra does is, in an instant, creates this target list for you. And that works for any species group, animals, insects, plants, bacteria, or whatever that might be of your interest. So creating checklists with your background data, what you have seen before, what you have heard before, which subspecies you have not seen before. And I'll talk a little bit about taxonomy through this presentation here, because that's quite important in these taxonomically turbulent times. So iGoTerra database works a lot on the subspecies level as much as the species level. But not only that, it can also show you genus and family levels. Many of you are probably collecting and trying to see all the families of the world and so forth. So regardless of taxonomic level, iGoTerra can provide you with all these checklists and target lists for any country in the world or sub-countries. So that's a lot of help before going on a trip. And then you're about to enter observations. And in order to have all the benefits of iGoTerra, you need, of course, to have your data into the database. And the good thing here is that you decide what you want to put in there. If you want a flat, plain checklist of tick in the world on species level, you can do that. Or if you want to have all the full details with numbers, coordinates, timestamps, dates, locations, etc., you can do that. And even better, that can be a mix. So no one forces you to enter full details and so on. You can just do a tick if you want, or a mix. You decide. That's the key point, really, that you decide. And you can also differentiate between seen or heard only, which is important to many people. Some people count heard only, some don't, but you can clearly differentiate between these. And this goes, of course, right through to target lists and checklists and so forth. Clements, IUC, you choose. Those are the two major bird taxonomies currently. And in a minute, I will come back to what will happen next year and onwards with a unified list. But today you can switch between Clements or IUC, you choose. More on taxonomy. In order to really benefit from information about splits and lumps in the future and so on, you really want to keep track on what subspecies you have seen. And that may sound like a gigantic task to actually find out which subspecies have you seen. But the good thing with iGoTerra is that there are very efficient, easy to use tools. Oriental turtle dove here, for example, you can choose one or multiple observations, and then you just get the range information there, and you shuffle it over to that subspecies. And all the information is on subspecies level then. Very easy. Sometimes you may not know which subspecies it is, so then you can park it, put it on a shelf for maybe later assessment and so on. But this tool is really, really useful if you really want to be on top of your lists. So let's assume you are in Honduras then, birding there together with Alexander, and you want to take notes. You can do the evening notes, of course, in the regular way. But you can also use the iGoTerra Pocket, which is an offline app, which means that you don't need to worry about expensive roaming costs and so on. You download the list before you go on a trip, or when at the hotel when you have Wi-Fi, you download the checklist for Honduras, and you'll get all the information there with subspecies, whether you have seen it before, if it's a year tick, or so that is the checklist that you will have in your pocket, and then you can register observations with exact GPS points and timestamps if you want. And the good thing is also, if you click on the blue icon to the right on this left screen there, you can also get the range data of both species and subspecies, which is very useful. So you can actually see which subspecies are available and make the assignment already in the field. And of course, you can also see whether you have seen it before or not. And there's a lot of other information. To the right, you see the world list. Very often you come, especially on a trip, you start talking about the Moluccas or another place you've been, and you start to think, have I seen that Moluccan megapode? And where did I see that? Someone may ask you. And then being offline, you have your world list with you in your pocket, and you can see exactly which date and location you saw this Moluccan megapode, whether you heard it or seen it before. So that world list in your pocket is also very, very useful. So back home, or when not traveling or when not out birding, you can play around a lot with iGoTerra. And a couple of things that I would like to highlight is the report generator. You'll, of course, when you go on a rock jumper trip, you'll get a full diary and annotated checklist what the group saw. But perhaps even more of interest to you is what you actually saw. So it's very, very easy to create your own report. You just enter start date, stop date, and the country, and then you have a full report with maps, your photos that you've uploaded, annotated checklist, diary part, subspecies, you get the point probably. And this is extremely easy, and you can also do this, for example, for butterflies in the US between 1st of January and 31st of December, for example. So you can generate a butterfly report for any country. So this is a very, very useful tool, this report generator. It's all automatic. Another way to look at your observations is the observation diary, where you can just click on a date in the calendar and you get a map where you were, statistics on lifers, year ticks, subspecies ticks, and so forth. And you get the photos and the locations where you were. And in both these, the trip report and observation diary, you can edit information. The report generator produces a Word format report. So you can work on that afterwards if you want to chip in photos of your friends and landscapes and so forth. So these are really, really useful tools on how to create and keep the memories with you after the tour. Also, again, it's a lot about taxonomy these days, isn't it? And of course, the updates are automatic, regardless if you work with Clemens or IOC. iGoTerra is, a day or two after the release, all the records are updated, providing you have them on subspecies level. If you don't, there is a tool that helps you actually to shuffle each of the splits across to the right new species. So that is a very useful tool when the taxonomic update has been done. Very often it's quite interesting also to see what happened to my observations and so forth. Automatic is fine, but if you're not in control what happened, it might be a bit, feeling strange. So there is a function where you can actually see what happened. For example, willow ptarmigan, here you can see it was split into red grouse and willow ptarmigan. And I had seen both of them, and I can click on the green icons and see all the details and so forth. Whereas barred owlet nightjar was split into barred and carimoine owlet nightjar, and I hadn't seen carimoine owlet nightjar. That's why it's grayed out, but I can see how all these taxonomic changes has affected my list. Again, it's the whole idea with iGoTerra is to provide you with the tools for you to work on them. Whole iGoTerra database is built by birders like most of you, and all of us in the iGoTerra team are keen birders and listers, so we know pretty much what is useful or not. Another function that is also quite useful is the extralimital tools. Many of you have seen thousands of birds, you have tens of thousands of observations, and given the taxonomic updates over the years, I dare to say that there might be tiny mistakes here and there, and we have tools to provide you with help to actually find those mistakes. So, for example, if you have seen a common gallinule in Africa, it will be highlighted and moved across to a common moorhen instead after that split. So if you have seen a bird outside its regular area, it's flagged for you to take a decision on. There is no one telling you that you're right or wrong. You decide, but we give you the tools. So extralimital tool is a very, very useful function to get really good quality of your data. So very welcome to join the iGoTerra community. And then you might start to think, how on earth can I get all my data into iGoTerra then, if it sounds interesting? And the good thing is that any type of Excel type data is easily imported with predefined formats and so forth. So it's very, very simple process. I mentioned that iGoTerra is very much for you as a user. But there are other very useful platforms in the world, for example, eBird and iNaturalist and others, where you provide data for citizen science and so forth. That's why we've made it very easy to import and export to and from eBird. So you can choose whether you want to have iGoTerra as a master and export across to eBird or vice versa. We have lots and lots of members who are actually using both systems, so they are a little bit different, apart from iGoTerra having all the wildlife things other than birds. But some of you may say that, well, that sounds fantastic, but I'm not digital. I have all my information on paper or checklists or different Excel sheets and so forth. And the good thing is that there are also tools for helping you to do that in an efficient way. There is, of course, a lot of legwork to be done, but there are guidance on how you can do that quickest, because you may not have updated your taxonomy for decades. So that flycatcher may have shifted place in the sort order and so on. So if you start barking down the wrong trail, it may take you a lot of time. So we can help you with guidance, depending on how you have your information, to do this in the most time-efficient way. And there is a support team ready to help you. Just drop them an email on support@igoterra.com. You see the email address bottom left. And they will make sure to help you get on track and be ready for the next list to come. And early next year, there will be the new AVI list coming across, the unified between all the different taxonomies. It may not be up to speed with all the subspecies and range data from day one, but over a year or two, the information will be there. And iGoTerra is making sure that there is a seamless transition, whether you're on Clemens or IOC, it will not matter. It's a seamless transition over to that new AVI list once it's settled. So no worries about that. Yeah, that was a very, very brief description of how iGoTerra can help you to really get on top of your list. But there is, of course, a lot of other things that you can play around with, like photo statistics, maps, and target lists, left, right, and so on. But please give it a try. iGoTerra.com is the web address, and you can always contact us through the support email address there. So I think I'll stop there and see if there are any questions. Keith, have you seen anything coming through?
Absolutely. Well, Björn, firstly, thank you very, very much. That was very informative. As I say, a nice quick overview of what iGoTerra can do and deliver for everybody. Yeah, there has been quite a few questions. A lot of them are related to, just seeing here, does iGoTerra integrate with eBird? So quite a few of these you did mention in your slides show. Just quite a lot of people asking about syncing with eBird and that ability to integrate with eBird and what have you, which you mentioned was very much possible.
I think the difference there is iGoTerra is geared towards you and your targets and your data and so on, whereas eBird is a lot about providing all that information over to citizen science, so everyone can enjoy it. And the combination there is really fruitful, and that's why we put a lot of effort into the sync effort there.
Mm. Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. I know you mentioned also Excel spreadsheets as well. There are ways of getting data in. Scott was just asking, can iGoTerra harvest life lists from other listing programs?
Yes,
So
there
perhaps,
are the import templates from Wildlife Recorder, from the old bird base and Avisis, that are now defunct, but there are fixed templates. The best thing any user can do is to drop us an email and say, "Hey, I have my information this way. How do I do it?" And we can guide people. But there are a lot of templates for existing systems. Yes.
absolutely, absolutely. So I'm just running through because there are quite a few questions here, but as I say, a lot of them are on a similar thread. Um, that code that you had once again, the code's up again. Okay, no, that's great. There it is. So they will get that. There were a few questions just about the code itself.
Yeah, and
And you mentioned
it's
wildlife recorder as well, moving data across. That's absolutely fine.
and subscription is equivalent to a few pints of beer per year. And this promotion code gives you 3 months for free when you sign up.
Excellent, excellent. Um, Someone's just asking, where's the data stored? The cloud? Question mark.
In the cloud, like the money you have in the bank, it's in the cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's stored on several servers and backed up, but you can also, if you want, you can always do a backup file on your own into Excel, but it's all stored there and backed up frequently in various places. So, and I think the best testimonial there is that given my number of observations, and that's my whole life, is stored up there, and I trust it.
Yes, that is saying something because you've got a lot of
I don't
records.
want to all this again. Well, maybe I should.
Yeah, so there's a few decades of data there that you've got, that's for sure. Fred was just asking, so what is the cost of the subscription?
As I said, in the range depending on currencies, but like
Hmm,
40 US for standard and 60, 70 US per year for the premium with all the bells and whistles.
yeah, excellent, excellent. Um, do you know the program Scythebill? Is Scythebill also able to transfer across the data?
It's not a predefined template, but as long as you can get your data into some kind of Excel format with, common names in one column, scientific names in one
Hmm,
column, location, dates, and so on, it's no problem whatsoever. We
mhm.
just
Excellent, excellent. And as you say, Björn did touch on this, but I know from Rock Jumper's perspective as well, if you need support on anything with your iGoTerra account or trying to get data across or trying to input anything, the team at iGoTerra are incredibly responsive and extremely helpful. And we especially in the beginning, when we were learning the system and trying to get things going, we had so many questions, and it was just amazing how helpful they've been. So, I think that's sort of what Bjorn's mentioning as well. If you can get your data into some sort of a whatever it might be, an Excel spreadsheet or something, these guys will really help you to get your data into the right format to be able to get it across and into iGoTerra as well.
I mean,
Um,
it's not a one-man show. We always have support people on the,
mm,
I mean, within 24 hours, depending on time zone and so on, we will respond. So it's always someone taking the call, so to say, and there's a whole team. It's not a one-man show.
Yeah, excellent. Yvonne's just asking as well, language-wise, what languages?
The site is
Is,
translated to a number of languages. Species names, common names of species are for birds. It's like, I don't know, it's, loads of different languages. But the site is essentially in English. It's been translated to Spanish, to Swedish, and some others. But English is the main.
Excellent, excellent. And then yes, Yvonne detailed, to subspecies level as well. So Yvonne was just asking about subspecies essentially, but yeah, you can.
About languages, it supports both British English and US English. So it, both gray and gray color.
Yeah, yeah. It's a
Future.
super smart system. Yeah, no, there are those subtle differences. Excellent. Um, all right, I think that is about that. I see Birder's diary here mentioned as well. But I assume the same applies for transferring or importing data from Birder's diary across.
Yeah, again, I mean, most of the systems can do an export file. If they can't do an
Yeah,
export file, I mean, you're probably in the wrong system. So
yeah,
just make sure to get an Excel type of file, and we'll help you.
yeah. Excellent. I think that's it for now, Bjorn. Thank you very, very much. If anything else does come through, we'll send it across to you, and you can always get a response to the folks that have answered that specific question.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for your time, Bjorn.
Thank you,
If you
everyone,
can
for
go
listening.
ahead. Sorry, Bjorn.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you, everyone, for listening.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure having you. If you can go ahead, yeah, just